Alright guys, how's it going? Billy Lowe back here again for another video, and today we're doing a style of video I haven't done for a while, and we're going to be ranking a movie series. No, we're not. We're going to be ranking a movie series. We've not reached that level on the internet just yet. So as you've seen by the title and the thumbnail, today we're ranking the Final Destination franchise. And in my previous video where I ranked my top 3 best horror movies, I said that I wanted to do a separate video on these because I adore this franchise. I think it's incredible, it's so creative, and just a lot of fun to watch and enjoy. And I think if you're thinking about getting into thrillers or horror, this is a good franchise to start with. So without further ado, let's crack on with the list. And in 5th place, I've put Final Destination 2. Which may sound surprising, as a lot of people have this as one of their best, and I do understand why. It's a great sequel and a great follow-up to the first, you know? It's a very interesting way of doing a sequel to the first Final Destination movie, because obviously most of that cast is, spoilers, dead. So there's only one left. And exploring Claire Rivers, the only survivor, and her storyline about how paranoid she has become because of the events of the first movie was really interesting and quite sad, really. You really it's nice to see her back again, and I really enjoy her storyline. However, I don't connect to the new cast quite as much. Especially the couple in this, they're sort of the main driving force for the film, and I just don't find them very interesting. However, I do really like the car chase crash at the start. That's a really good scene. And apparently one of the most expensive scenes in cinema, which I can fully believe. They actually did that car crash for real. And it's still a great movie, you know. I don't think there's a single bad film in this franchise. It's just a matter of preference. And for me, I don't really find myself wanting to revisit Final Destination 2 all that much. It does have some great death scenes, like the fence scene going through that guy and the windshield. But, you know, the amount of survivors in it and the random people about how they all come together, I just don't think it's that interesting. I don't really like the theatrical cuts ending with how Michael and Kimberly survive death. I think that kind of breaks canon a little bit for these films. And I know it's sort of fixed later on, but I just don't like how it ends on an almost happy note for those characters. The actual ending is kind of a good twist on that. But, you know, it's just, I don't like that. I'm not going to a Final Destination movie for a happy ending for the characters. Next up, again, is a movie that most people would have much higher on the list. However, that is Final Destination 5. A great installment. After the 4th one, it kind of felt like the franchise was wrapped up and done. But this does a really clever job of bringing the franchise back a little bit. The opening bridge collapse scene is incredible. That is terrifying and one of my fears. So that really strikes a nail, and it's stunning to watch. I also think it's really interesting how one of those characters survives in that premonition. That's a really interesting thing that they hadn't done yet and explored yet. So I like that they're doing something different. There's some really cool and horrifying deaths. When that guy's getting acupuncture and he dies from falling on it, and oh no, that really freaks me out, and it's put me off ever getting anything like that done. But I really don't like his character. This is my main issue with Final Destination 5, in that there's a lot of irritating characters and comedic characters in it. And I don't like the trope where horror movies put in comedic moments, because for me, that's not what I'm going into a horror movie for. You know, if I wanted to laugh, I'd watch a comedy. I don't really like that. And it feels very jarring and out of place, especially in a Final Destination movie when they're so gloomy. But thankfully, the rest of the cast don't detract from that, and the storyline is really interesting, and we can't not discuss the ending. And spoilers, Final Destination 5 is actually a prequel to the first one, and I kind of knew it was a prequel, but I didn't expect it to tie directly in to Flight 180 from the first film. And that scene, when you're slowly realising that, yeah, they actually haven't survived death, and now things are going very wrong. And then you see the kids from the original movie over on this plane, and you're like, oh my god, they're on Flight 180. And it kind of implies that maybe they were why the plane crashed as well. And there's a lot of good stuff in that ending, and I really like that it's a prequel. I think one of the good things about the Final Destination sequels is that they try and do something different with each one. So with the second one, it's more of a straightforward sequel. Then with the third one, they've got that interactive feature on the DVD release. The 4th one is in 3D, and the 5th one is a mind-bending prequel, and I think that's a really great twist, and that for me holds this movie in such high caliber on its own. In third place is Final Destination 3D, which is a really interesting direction to take the Final Destination franchise. And this DVD is actually quite fascinating for me because it comes with 3D glasses, and there is actually a 3D disc. I can watch this on a normal HD TV and it shows up in 3D. And that's never really been done before. Often it's like a Blu-ray 3D, you have to have a specific one. So I thought that was really cool on its own. However, with all 3D films, it did give me a migraine 20 minutes in and I had to switch to the 2D version. But apart from that, I really like this film. Not many people do, and I don't understand why. I think the deaths are really cool in this. They really ramp up the gore and the shocking nature of it. They really take advantage of the ridiculousness of the premise, and that elevator death scene, the escalator one when she gets like sucked in, oh, it's horrifying, and again is one of my childhood fears, so that really struck a chord with me. The leads in it aren't the best, but for me the film feels fresh, and that's very important in a franchise that has a lot of the same story beats in each film. So I like that it goes really over the top with everything. Like the lawnmower death in the hairdresser, and there's a lot of misdirects about how she might go. That for me is really fun because it keeps me on my toes, it keeps me guessing, and there was no point in this movie where I knew what was going to happen, and I like that. The racetrack premonition is awesome. I think that is stunning, especially in 3D, and there's all this stuff flying at you. It works as a 3D film. Unlike the likes of Saw 3D, I feel like this takes advantage of its premise and fits far better. And those opening credits of all the deaths in the previous franchise, oh, it's stunning. It is stunning. I want those pictures along my wall because they're so creative, and it really ties in the rest of the franchise. And in canon, that's the final movie that we've seen. So that really works by looking at what's come before it. I think it's great. So coming into the top two, and this was incredibly difficult to decide which ones were going to go where, because these are essentially in equal measure to me, as good as each other. They are incredible and definitely the best in the franchise. And to be honest, you could probably see these as joint first. But I had to put a second and a first, and it came down to which would I rewatch first. So in second place, it is the original Final Destination from 1999. And this film was so groundbreaking for the time, especially. It really paved the way for what thrillers and horror in the modern era would be, in my opinion. And that is a real charm to this film. You feel how fresh and vibrant it is, especially for its time, and even today. This one definitely has the best leads. They're the most compelling, the most interesting, and the most relatable. And the plane crash is something that terrifies me. I've never flown before, and this film really put me off it, to be honest. So if you haven't seen that plane crash, then look it up on YouTube because it's incredible. And because it's the first one that you watch, you really don't understand what that is and what's going on, and it lays out the lore so well without being a big exposition dump on you. It does it so cleverly within the story, and having it set in a high school, you know, can feel quite dated and quite odd, but for me it kind of works for the setting of the film. It's a bit cheesy and it hasn't quite found its feet yet, but that's the point. And I think that's why it works so well. Again, you're going into these films for the deaths, and they are really cool in this one. That one with the train and the guy's head that gets sliced in half, and the kitchen scene with the teacher. Oh, both of them are horrifying. And again, it keeps you guessing constantly, because at this point you don't really know anything about what's going on. So you really don't know who's going to die and when, and watching these characters work it out throughout the film and take you along with it is really fun. I love how it sets up a franchise without doing it on purpose, you know. It can be a standalone film on its own, but the premise is so great that they then took it further, which I really like. And again, with the sequels, they're not all tied in together in the same way that like Saw is. You know, I think it's fun to watch them all together, and if you've seen them all, but you don't have to, and I think that works really well, and why these were so successful, because you can just go into a sequel having not seen anything else. God, I really want this to be a Final Destination 6. The guy who plays the funeral guy recently came out and said it's very unlikely because they're so expensive to make and the time's kind of gone, but God, I want a Final Destination 6. So you've now probably worked it out that in first place it is Final Destination 3. This movie is so much fun. It's so much fun, and it's the freshest sequel I think there is, especially at this point, because the second one was a very run-of-the-mill kind of sequel to it, which worked. However, when I watched the third one, I was like, right, you need to do something different for me. You need to shock me a little bit. And they do. They really do something different. They go on the premonition with a fairground, and that really works because obviously rides are terrifying, and whenever you get onto a fairground ride or a roller coaster, there's always that thought in the back of your mind, what if it breaks? And this shows you what if it breaks, and it's horrible. It's great. I think it has some really great leads and really great character interactions. I think the love between the characters and the relationships they have is quite interesting. And especially with the main character having lost her boyfriend on that ride, that guilt she feels because she saw the premonition and didn't tell him, she just got off. That's a really heartbreaking part of this film and is really interesting to follow. The foreshadowing of all the deaths in the photographs is really cool and clever. That's different and I appreciate that. Wendy is probably one of my favourite leads in the Final Destination franchise. You really feel what she's feeling. This guilt and this fear and not knowing what to do. And I love the way that it ties into the likes of Flight 180 and the previous movie as well. It's building up lore, you know. You have those questions, well, why isn't anyone pointing to what just happened in the last movie? But they do, and that for me makes it feel more real. There's some great deaths in this. The sauna scene on the sunbeds, oh, that's so uncomfortable to watch. I showed my friend Rhea that just as a little snippet, and she agreed that's disgusting and it's horrible. But that sticks in my mind. When I think of Final Destination, that's one of the first things I think of. And that's in that movie. So if you haven't seen that scene, definitely check it out. It's a really cool scene. And if you like that kind of thing, I think it's definitely a movie you should check out. The horse riding scene and all that, you know, the stakes feel higher and it's supposed to do that in a sequel. It needs to ramp it up. Another truly shocking ending. Again, you almost feel like they got away with it and that Wendy got away with it. And then the ending comes in and they're on that train and you realise, yeah, she really didn't. She did not get away with this at all. It's a really shocking ending that I like. I think the first one maybe has a more shocking ending just because I had no idea what the franchise was going to do. So that was really shocking, but this definitely shocked me. And originally Kimberly and Michael from the second film were supposed to appear in that train scene. And for me, that's a massive missed opportunity that they didn't due to shooting and the schedule. That would have been really cool if they were in that, and it really would have tied the film together. On the DVD, there is a Choose Your Own Fate feature, which is really cool. And they do appear on that, and they show their death. So it kind of fixes the canon with my issue with the second film. But I think it would have been so much better if they were on that train. But, you know, ifs and buts, and it didn't happen, and it's still a great movie regardless. And Final Destination 3 is definitely the best in the franchise for me. And that is my video for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Comment down below how you would rank the Final Destination franchise. Have you seen the movies? What do you think of them? And do you agree with my list? Also, I've been obsessed with WandaVision lately, so if you've got any thoughts on that, comment down below and let me know. I've just watched episode 6, so I'm all caught up. I think it's awesome. Definitely let me know what you're thinking of it. But until the next time, guys, thank you so much for joining me once again, and I will see you in the next video. Remember to subscribe, hit the notification bell, like this video, and check out my Instagram, Billy_Low37, if you feel inclined. But until the next time, I'll see you in the next video, guys. Thank you so much.